Good morning, Bulgaria. You're listening to the first episode of the Essential English Podcast, the introduction to the podcast. My name is Jay. I'm the creator of the English with Jay project and of the first essential English course in the world, as far as I know. What I mean by essential is that in order to speak English fluently, you need to know a very small part of the English grammar and less than 1% of the words in the language. As you know, I am Bulgarian, just like you probably. I have never lived in an English-speaking country. As you hear, that doesn't stop me from speaking good English, and neither does it stop you. Here's my story. When I was growing up, my favorite cartoons and TV shows were in English. My favorite music and movies were in English. My favorite books and articles were in English. And there were no subtitles and no Google Translate. I had no choice but to speak and listen to English all the time. I didn't just study the language like most Bulgarians do, but I actually thought in English, just like a native speaker. It wasn't hard for me because I love languages. I'm so curious about them that I can spend hours thinking about a certain phrase or a few words. I don't even realize I am learning new things. However, not everyone in Bulgaria has been so lucky to have English cartoons and English books around them when they were growing up. And not everyone knows how intriguing and how logical and how much fun English could be. Instead of curious and excited like me, most Bulgarians feel frustrated when they try to improve their English. Well, not anymore. We all deserve to speak the most important language in the world. That's why this podcast is free. It will give Bulgarians a chance to get to know the English language better, to listen to it, to read it, to discover new words and phrases, even to start thinking in English, step by step. I will do my best to speak slowly and clearly, and to use short sentences. But most importantly, I will only use essential words. Because, if you follow my work, you already know that you only need about 1,000 words to be able to communicate in a foreign language. Words like however, and realize, and already, and 1,000, which you can all find in this intro episode. The fact that I don't use non-essential words makes this podcast one of the best places in the world to practice your English. Every Monday, I will tell you a story about something interesting that I have read, or seen, or listened to. A movie, a book, a funny video, a famous artist, an interesting place, etc. Your job here is simple. Just listen and pay attention. This is all you need to do. No need to write anything down or to repeat words or to do homework. Just listen and pay attention. But pay attention to everything. The words, the phrases, the tenses, the pronunciation, the melody of my voice, the pauses that I make. The more attention you pay, the more you will notice. And our brains only remember the things we notice ourselves. The easiest way to pay attention is to ask yourself the question, why? Just like a little kid. Here's an example. In the sentence, just like a little kid, why did Jay say just instead of only? Why did he say like instead of as? Why did he say a kid and not the kid? The question why is the greatest English teacher in the world. Okay, there are a few more tricks that will help you get the maximum out of this podcast. Trick number 1. Use a pen and a piece of paper. This engages 3 of your senses: hearing, seeing, and touching. The more senses you engage, the easier it is to remember. Trick number 2. You can always pause the episode and to go back a little to hear that new word again. This makes the exercise slower but 10 times more useful. Trick number 3. Every podcast episode has a transcription, a text that you can read while listening to the audio. But only use it if the audio is too hard for you to understand. Trick number 4. I will probably add a Bulgarian translation of the text as well. Again, only use the translation if you don't understand after listening and after reading. Don't make the exercise too easy because improvement requires a little discomfort. Trick number 5. If you still don't understand something, you can ask me a question under the Facebook post. But again, do that only if none of the other tricks helps. As I told you, we only remember the things we notice ourselves. Don't take the easy road. And finally, the most important trick. Listen to each episode 3 or 4 times. The first time without looking at the text, just listening. The second time, listening and reading at the same time, to engage 2 senses. The third time, without the text again, to check how much you have learned. And if you can, listen once more a few days later, to make the new knowledge permanent. You can spend the whole month on each episode if you want. Practice until there's nothing else to notice, until you can listen to it in real time and understand every word without looking at the text. But above all, have fun. This is not school. This is your free time. Enjoy it. This way, improving your English will not feel like learning. It will feel like being curious on a subject that you find interesting. And your brain will not resist it. If you don't improve your English with this podcast, this is because you didn't pay enough attention. And because you didn't listen to the episode several times. And maybe because you didn't work hard enough. This is the problem with free things. We don't appreciate them very much. So be very careful. This podcast is an amazing tool for learning English. It's free not because it's not valuable. It's free only because someone else pays for it. Me. Okay, enough for today. Listen to the episode a few times and pay close attention. This was the intro to the Essential English Podcast. Until next week, Jay.